Just Croft from TombRaiderFourms.com asks, have there been any audio requests that you haven't been able to achieve, and what were they?
It's interesting, like, where video games are at this point, because I go to a lot of video game conferences, and I see a lot of people talk about audio tools, and they say, we're at the point where you can pretty much do whatever you want in video games, and that's not true at all. And so a lot of our time is taken up by figuring out how we're actually going to achieve a particular a thing, a particular sound or reaction or something like that. So that's kind of where the complexity comes in, is figuring out how you're actually going to achieve the sound that you want. And so one of the things that we did on this project, which was very, very interesting for anyone who's super into this stuff, was that we did a spotting session, which is something that's typical for audio post-production in film, and something that doesn't really happen so much in video games. And so what we were doing was sort of treating it as though this was right after we hit beta. The game was essentially done. There was no more levels or objects that could be added to the game at that point. It's kind of the first time that you have where you can play the game from start to finish, and it's not going to change. And that's pretty much the idea. But so what we did was we sat down with the producer and Daniel, the lovely Forrest, and Daniel Newberger, and
the lovely Daniel,
and the lovely Daniel. And we played through and just sort of asked them what they wanted to get out of the game, in terms of the emotional arc and just also what they weren't, what they felt was missing from the game. And so that was really interesting, because then we had a process for a while after that of just implementing those, and it was a really, really long list, and I think something that we we wouldn't have identified otherwise, I think. So it was really useful. That was really useful.
Sweet. Nightwish asks the following question.
What is the strangest thing you've had to record for the franchise?
I was just thinking that we recorded a lot of kind of odd things, but the weirdest and most awesome recording that I recall. So we had a lot of wood barrels, and so we bought a big wine cask, like the big, typical, huge wooden barrels, and brought it back to the offices, and then basically rolled it around and recorded it, and then bounced it around. And
where were you rolling it around? Was that
the parking lot?
Right.
And just generally having a good time messing around with the big, huge barrel. And then we got to the point where we wanted to smash it to bits. So we had a sledgehammer, which is one of our pieces of equipment, and I was getting ready to smash the top in, and the sledgehammer had kind of like an odd texture on the head of it, and I kind of haphazardly slid the hammer across the top of the barrel, and it made a low groaning, kind of
awesome,
really weird groan, so we ended up recording a lot of that, just basically going back and forth playing with the sledgehammer on the top of the wine barrel, and that's where we got a lot of the big, huge groan things, and that was totally unexpected.
That's so cool.
And then we smashed it to bits.
Because you could.
Yeah. Well, then we needed wood smash sounds.
And Nightwish concludes this podcast with the final question.
What does Jumpy sound like? Could you imitate it for purely educational purposes, of course?
So
imitate?
Yeah, that's over to Alex and Karl.
Kind of.
Wait, no, it was more screechy, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, you do the screechy part, I'll do the...
That's genuinely quite scary.
So, that was close. Chompy is a combination of things. Because he's a fish, I thought it was important to get some of the... an animal that lived in the sea, at least. So, part of him is walrus, and this is the walrus part. and that's actually pitched down as well. So that's a walrus with a pitch down. Then for the squeak, I used a pig. So the pig sounds like this. And I think that I may have put some reverb that was pretty short reverb, so that it sounded like it was coming from within his mouth, and he's got this this pretty huge mouth. The next thing is, I think, an earthquake, and that was just to give it some low end. So I'm not sure if you can hear that. You probably need some a subwoofer to hear that. And then the final thing was the sound of a lion hissing. So it's kind of like when your cat you pull your cat's tail and your cat's like it's like that sound, but a lion doing it.
Do you own a cat?
Yeah. Can you tell?
Can you pull your cat's tail?
Not all the time. And so then this is the lion hiss, and this is also, I think, pitched down. So if you with all those elements combined, you have chompy.
You have a chompy.
So you should probably play that first and then go through all those things.
Brilliant. So Alex, Karl, thank you very much.
I have also something I wanted to say.
Oh, I see. This
Really?
isn't planned.
No, this is completely unplanned.
Want to get married?
Karl. Everyone, I'm kneeling. No, I have something that I observed when I joined this company, which I was very sort of surprised about, or not actually surprised about, but I guess I just didn't think about until I joined. And one of the things is that, Keir is I guess your job is to communicate with the fans and the community, general public. And one of the things that I didn't think about was just how people within the company react to what the general public are thinking.
Oh, well, the community.
In the community, particularly the forum. And so, what I wanted to point out was that, a lot of the stuff that is posted on the forum ends up circulating around the company, particularly if it's like something funny, like someone has posted a cartoon or something that usually makes the rounds in the studio. And, for whatever reason, we can't really react to any of that stuff. But a lot of what people say on the forums is, people in this company take in and respond to. And so yeah, that was the kind of thing that I wanted to point out.
That's very nice. Yeah, but I can mirror that. Since I've been at Crystal for the last 3 months, I've seen people working on Guardian of Light in the design department circulating stuff that they found on the forums. I know when the Underpuss was famous around Tomb Raider Underworld, a few of the guys printed up T-shirts and wore them into a team meeting. So yeah, I guess everyone on the forums. I mean, I always say everyone's reading the forums, but they genuinely do. And thanks very much for telling everyone, Alex. That's good. Yeah,
yeah. So I think that's really important. I think whatever you post up there, you're being listened to, and so when you want things and you think, I think sometimes it can seem like no one's really listening to that because no one reacts to it, but everybody in this company is reading that stuff.
And you can always send me a private message if there's something in particular you want to say, and I'll pass it on to the relevant person.
Yeah, and then the only other thing was can you tell the story about the do you know the story when we went to E3? There was a person who will remain nameless from a Japanese company who was hitting on Keir.
I'm not going to tell that story at all.
Oh, come on!
That wasn't actually at E3. That was another time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's a great story, but I'm not going to tell it. And on that note, thanks very much for listening, everyone, and thanks to you, Alex and Karl. It's been brilliant. And the next podcast will hopefully be with Daniel, the creative director, next week. So thanks for listening. Say goodbye.
Oh, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Sorry. Bye.